Good morning, YouTube. It is 10 a.m. in the great state of Texas. Salty Texas back with another woodworking project. And you know what? I've decided to mix it up. I've been doing a lot of epoxy projects lately, and I'm going to get back to the roots. So we got all this scrap pine board here, and we're going to do a glue up. We haven't done a glue up on this channel since, I want to say maybe the first year that I started doing woodworking, because that's all I knew. So gotta go back to basics for this one. I'm gonna use all this scrap, as you can see here. Got a bunch of pine boards that I've just had left over, and taking this 5-quart bucket, rounding everything out, trying to get a nice general idea of what we're gonna do for this particular project. Already said particular within the first minute. Congratulations. Hey, and if you haven't subscribed, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So here we are, cutting everything up nice and neat, using the table saw here. Haven't used this in a long time. By the way, I finished this in March of 2021. You guys probably aren't going to watch this until maybe August or September, maybe even November. I don't know. The scheduling for these videos is all catawampus. But anyway, so glue up. If you haven't seen a glue up, basically you just take a crap ton of glue. We're using Gorilla brand glue. This has been sitting on the shelf for 6-7 months now. I haven't had a reason to use it. And you just stack all of these boards however you want, whatever size, shape you need. And this is just scrap, so we don't have to get too technical with it. We don't have to make it look pretty. We just got to make the generalized cube that, you know, we usually do. And I miss doing glue ups. I want to do more of these. I wish I had the money to do more expensive woods, but hey, pine board at Home Depot or Lowe's that you pick up, it's just as effective. So you get all the vice grips, glue it up. I put this, because everything wasn't too flat, I ended up leaving it in these grips for over a week, or maybe it was like 5 to 6 days, close to a week by the time I got to it. So once everything is nice and, you know, glued up, the fun part of taking all the grips off, that was, you know, fairly interesting to do. Having done this, like I said, in a long time. But I wanted to make sure everything was adhered nice, because I've done these glue ups before in the past where I didn't leave the grips on long enough and everything kind of explodes off the lathe if you don't manage to glue everything up nice and neat. So you want to make sure you give it plenty of time if you're going to do this at home. Also, there are plenty of other better woodworkers on this on YouTube, so, you know, go watch them. I'm an amateur, but that's how I usually like to conduct business. So here we are, got everything in the vice grips, and obviously it's too big for that mini lathe that I got there in the background. So what did we do? We ended up getting out the Sawzall, and now we're just taking off the corners the best we can before we get it onto the lathe itself. Anytime you can use the Sawzall, that's a good day in the wood shop, or the garage in my case. This is not a wood shop, it's literally a garage. So we just went back, hit it with all the corners, made the adjustments as we needed to. And of course, we're going to use this scrap pine that I'm actually taking off for a future project, because we don't waste anything on this channel. Or we try not to, because I don't have the funding to be able to afford to throw away things. At least, you know, not right now. You shouldn't be wasteful to begin with. You know, people poo-poo on pine board, but you know what? You got to use what you got. So here we are, taking off the last edge, and then we'll get to the fun part, which is rounding everything out, because that's basically all we're doing right now, is trying to round everything out as much as possible before we turn on the mini lathe, because between the banjo and the actual, you know, headstock, it's not going to be able to spin. So here we are, Ryobi drill, putting on the faceplate onto the blank itself. And you're going to see here in a little bit, I wasn't able to actually turn it down. I got most of the edges off, but even then, it was still too large for the mini lathe. And I cannot wait to get a bigger lathe so I can do some bigger projects. So had to end up taking it over to the belt sander, and all I'm doing here is trying to get as much material worked off as possible so that it has room to spin on the lathe itself, because obviously if it's too big to put onto the headstock, it's not going to spin and you're not going to get anything done. So this is where the handy dandy Ryobi belt sander comes in handy, and I need to change this belt, by the way. Even though we got a lot of material off, I still had a little bit of trouble getting stuff off, because I haven't changed that belt in forever, so I'll need to do that the next time. But anyway, so now we got everything glued up, everything is on the headstock, and this part was probably my favorite part of the bowl. I forgot how fun it is just, you know, getting that superficial layer of pine off, making everything nice and even, and this went fairly smooth. I haven't just done a simple wood project in so long, so I was really happy to do this one. Excuse me, sorry, frog in my throat. Anyway, so now we're just taking the round carbide tool, getting that nice rounded bottom, just like an epoxy project, but a little bit smoother because we didn't have as many problems, obviously. I'm still coughing. Sorry for the commentary. It's all the sawdust in this video that's in my throat now that I'm having issues with. So once we did that, then we came back with a flat skew and just getting everything nice and even. And now we got the tailstock off, and now we're about to make some mortise. And this part went really well. You'll see a little bit later that I needed to sharpen the tools, and I have made the comment in previous videos that I need to sharpen my tools quite easily. And thinking that this was just pine board, I was gonna, be fairly easy, and it was for the most part. But gee willikers, there were some problems a little bit later in the video. So made the mortise. This part went relatively easy, not a lot of issues with it. The square carbide tool made everything melt like butter. That's the way we like to see it. So once we got that done, now we just come back with a Ryobi drill, take off the faceplate. No issues there. Still using the same 4 screws for the past 27 million projects. Those screws are going strong. And now we're about to reverse it into the chuck. Look at that beautiful blank. Look at that. Most of the work is already done. And at this point I'm feeling fairly confident about the work that we're doing. So once that's on there, then we just go ahead, put the tailstock back on, and now we're just working that lip edge with the carbide, with the round carbide, making sure everything's nice, even, and flush. Everything's going fairly smooth, and then I feel pretty confident that we can start taking that superficial portion of that wood off of the blank itself, and it's going relatively easy. Feeling pretty confident, and like I said, man, I was wearing a respirator for this, but damn, those small little dust things just get to you after a while. That's why I'm coughing right now. It's all in the air. It's everywhere. And I wish I had an industrial vacuum where I could just scoop up all this dust. One day we'll get there when we get to 1 million subscribers, and I can afford it. So anyway, now we're starting the gouging portion of it, and there were a lot of knots in this blank all by itself. And I had a lot of chatter. You can see we're not getting really ribbons as much as we're just getting shrapnel off the gouging portion. And I got super frustrated a couple of times during the project. And I think the motor, I got the RPM cranked up all the way with this, but I was still able to stop the motor from turning once I started gouging this out. So I'm thinking, the motor on this is, I don't know, technique. I haven't done a project like this in a while. The banjo might be a little too low. I might be coming in at a, too much of a shallow angle. So I had a lot of issues. As many projects as I've done, I've had a lot of issues just doing like basic simple stuff. It's like if you don't use it, you lose it kind of concept. So came back with it, tried to stay positive, not too aggravated with it. A lot of knots that I had to work through. Then I came back, hit it with a square carbide tool. And I mean, by this time in the project, I'm fairly confident that we're going to get a pretty good product out, but it was just getting to this point that was kind of aggravating for me because gouging, didn't go as smooth as I anticipated, and I think it was because of the knots or because I was coming in at a, real shallow angle, and I was worried about the lathe breaking. A lot of things were running through my head. You got to have a clear head when you're doing these things, because if you got too much going on upstairs, it's just not going to translate well to a good project. So once that portion was done, now we're just hitting it with the sanding. I believe I went from 60 grit all the way up to 320. We didn't get crazy with the micro mesh. With wood, you typically don't have to do that. 320 is more than plenty, and then starting at a lower grit definitely helps get all that unevenness off. But as you'll see here, we did a little something special with this particular project. Said particular twice. So most of the sanding's done at this point. I'm done with that. And once we clean up the workbench, then I hit it with that beautiful butane board. And what are we doing? We're burning this baby. We're burning it up. So instead of just doing a simple wood wax on top of it, I thought it'd be cool just to come through and burn it, give that wood some character, because pine is pretty boring all by itself. Sure, it looks good when it's in epoxy for the most part, but it's just a bland kind of wood. So I thought, hey, let's burn it. We got this torch here, and we're doing great things. So be careful when playing with fire, people. I have a fire extinguisher. Safety is #1 priority, obviously. So here we are, just burning the wood. Some parts we burn a little bit more than others. You can see some of there's resin in this wood. It's chemically treated, so we're getting all kinds of like weird textures off the wood itself. But I think overall this was a pretty good aesthetic. It looks pretty good once we get everything nice and done. We'll see that here in just a bit. We're almost finished with the project. And then we came back, hit it with the inter portion of it, just coming back and forth, getting nice torch marks everywhere, or as much as we can at least. And everything's looking really good, liking that, except for the part where it catches on fire a little bit. I'm a little worried there, but it's totally fine. We didn't burn down the garage or anything. So once we got that all done, then we came back, hit it with that lacquer. And you know that warning sign on it that says, hey, use in well-ventilated area? Yeah, use a well-ventilated area, because god dang, dude, I'm still smelling the fumes. That's why I was coughing a little bit earlier in there. So came back, hit it with that lacquer, get that, all that, darkness and char covered up real nice and neat so it doesn't get all over your hands. And it made the wood look really good. It pops the wood a little bit. Makes it look nice and shiny and fresh, which is good. I didn't want to use epoxy or anything like that. I thought the lacquer did more than, its fair share, and did a really good job of just really, protecting the wood and just making it, shine a little bit. And we're going to hit it with that wood wax like we typically do. Here a little bit, bam, right there. Hitting the wood wax, shining it real nice and neat. And I think it gives it a lot of character. Like, people might not like this burn look, but I think it really gives it a lot of character. I really like this. I'm a big fan of it. If you're not a fan of it, then find another woodworking channel to watch. Even though I do appreciate you making it a cool part of the video because nobody else does. So here we are, got everything nice and shined up, all the lacquer is dried, even though you can still smell it in the garage. And here is our final project, all nice and neat and done. And boom, there it is. A little bit more charred in some areas than others, but like I said earlier, I think the wood burn gives it a lot of character. I really like the way it looks overall. The aesthetic looks really nice. So hope you guys like this. Like I said, you guys are probably not watching this to the end of the year. I finished this in March of 2021. Hope everybody's doing well. Don't forget to subscribe. All that good stuff that every other YouTuber talks about. Here's the final project, and I'll see you guys in the next project. Peace. Okay, real quick outro. Bowl is done. I can still smell the lacquer on this thing, so I gotta hurry up before I pass out. But I really like the char on this. This actually turned out a lot better than I initially thought it was gonna turn out. So hope you guys liked it. Simple pine. My lathe is dying, so I probably went over that in the commentary. The belt is probably needing to be replaced or the motor's burnt out. But haven't done a wood project in a long time, but there it is. Nice burn. I'm gonna do some more of these. I really like the way this turned out. So hope you guys subscribed, liked, all that good shit. I'm gonna pass out from the lacquer fumes. All that good stuff. Alright, I'm already passing out. So catch me in the next project. Today is March 18th, 2021. You guys are probably not going to see this until September, August maybe. But hope you liked it. I'll catch you guys in the next project. Peace.